89 wartime documents were recently released by the Jilin Provincial Archives based in Changchun, capital of northeast China's Jilin province. Some files had accounts of detention and maltreatment of prisoners from the U.S., British, Australian, and Dutch militaries. Senior military officials were held in a detention center based in what is now known as the city of Liaoyuan.
The number of officials held here was small, but their ranks were very high. They came from multiple countries, such as the U.S., Britain, and the Netherlands.
A diary of a U.S. veteran described a senior official detained here as resembling a scarecrow in rags. The general was said to be very thin with impaired hearing. Many U.S. and British soldiers held in other detention centers suffered frequent beatings and physical punishment, according to the documents. The documents also revealed conditions at some comfort stations, including the number of Japanese soldiers and comfort women there, and details of gruesome rapes. There is also evidence of organized activity by Japanese troops in setting up comfort stations, trafficking women, and forcing them into sex slavery.
According to the files, women from China, the Korean Peninsula, and Indonesia were forced into sex slavery.
Other released documents include Japanese newspapers depicting gruesome killings during the Nanjing Massacre, which began in mid-December 1937 and lasted for 6 weeks.
There have been arguments about the Nanjing Massacre. Japanese scholars have claimed that the population of Nanjing was about 200,000 when the massacre took place, which contradicts the victim count of 300,000. Documents that came from the Japanese themselves state that the population was around 1 million at the time.
In addition, nearly 200 files documented the transfer of 277 prisoners to the notorious Unit 731, where illegal bacterial experiments on humans were carried out. The prisoners included mainly Chinese, some Russians, and a 28-year-old Korean man who was arrested by the Japanese army as a spy for the Soviet Union.
The Korean man was transferred to Unit 731 as a spy after interrogation, according to the files.
The documents also showed the migration of a large number of Japanese to northeast China during the period of Japanese colonial rule. The newcomers stole land from local farmers and beat and killed many. The files, once kept by the invading Japanese army in northeast China, represent only a small portion of the nearly 100,000 Japanese wartime files retrieved during construction work that was undertaken in the city in the early 1950s. 90% of the files are in Japanese. The Japanese troops buried some of their archives when fleeing Changchun, which acted as the capital of the puppet Manchu state in wake of conflict with the Soviet Union.
Some researchers who participated in retrieving the files suffered from depression, as they were severely affected by reading the documents.
The Jilin Provincial Archives started translating and studying the documents in 2013. Yin said researchers will continue their work.